All right, Surf family, we are headed into a new energy window. Another shift report. This one is number 10, and it runs about the same length as the last energy window, about 3 weeks. If you remember, Venus and Mercury are leaving hand in hand from that cocktail social. They had enough of the party, and now they're going metaphorically home. The metaphor is Cancer, so both of them are going together, exactly together, and I'll show you that chart. But it's a much more emotional situation rather than, social and gatherings and whatnot. But it doesn't mean it's going to be any less powerful. Do we have emotional mayhem coming up in these 3 weeks? Or do we have emotional evolution between June 17th and July 11th? Now, I will say on the way out here, there is more of a process than a big old shear. But there is a kung pao at the end. And so maybe it's both emotional mayhem and evolution. I'd like to propose that in the beginning of our window, more towards the middle to end of June is going to be more mayhemish. And then towards the end, not just evolution, not just maturation, but emotional, spiritual awakening. Yes, to that level. All right, big picture. We are here on our eclipse cycle with all our new moons here on the top. And this is the Aries total solar eclipse that happened on April 8th, 2024. We're about in the middle of that overall cycle. And in this window, in this energy window, we're going to have a full moon. And this is going to be first of 2 full moons in Capricorn. The next one will be in probably the next energy window, but I don't know how long that'll be. But that one, there'll be 2 full moons in a row in Capricorn. And the first of that will be the first big lunar event in our window. And the second lunar event will be a new moon in Cancer. And as you can see, when we're talking emotional mayhem or emotional evolution, Cancer is a very apropos part of that. So anyway, we have the beginning is, and don't worry, we're not going to go through every chart talking about every one of these, but once I talk about each individual alignment, we can just see what's changing there as we go. So it'll take a lot less time to do it all now. We start with Mercury and Venus. Look at that, 0 degrees, 18 minutes. So they're basically coming across the threshold into Cancer at exactly the same degrees, and they are also parallel. So they're also in the same inclinations. They're in the same speck of sky, too close to the sun. So in terms of going out and seeing this in the night sky or the morning sky is probably unrealistic. But they're headed into Cancer together, which kicks off our window, and that's 17 June 2024 at 7:19 a.m. This window begins. And so first off, we have Venus and Mercury. This is the sensitive communicator. Once both these lovers get into Cancer, it's a depth of emotional intelligence. It's, thoughts and emotions all meld together, intuitive understanding of things, understand how words affect others. So very intuitive, if you will. Thoughts of love, thoughts of affection, all those things, thoughts of nurturing, all the Cancerian things. And then, but we have the dominant force, Sun, is still back in Gemini. So that becomes that stays the versatile creator, because there's a layer of Gemini adaptability, quick expressing, quick wit, loves to learn. And that has to be included in our archetypical figuring out, delineating all this. And then, as you can see, we have the square of these 3, Sun, Mercury, Venus, we have a square over to Neptune. Now it looks like, because Neptune is almost out of Pisces at just 8 minutes left in Pisces, this is pretty tricky, because it looks like he's going to almost tip into Aries, but he doesn't, because he's going to go station and retrograde before that hits, within 4 minutes of Aries, only to find himself in retrograde. But right now, a square, and that square means the mystical visionary. It's the pressure to imagine. It's convincing you, and this square here is pressuring your mind and into your emotions that there's images of Piscean things. So unity, spirituality, maybe even escapism. There's a pressure to escape, pressure to connect with others. And then there's this in conjunct right here. And that's just the Venus and Mercury in conjunct over to Pluto. And this brings in an alchemy sort of a feel, a transformation. Mind adapts to deep psychological transformations. Dark corners of the psyche color and shade each thought. And how this can really make people highly influential. And you'll see communication and expression in a very deeply powerful format. So putting all those main players together, putting all those archetypes together, we get the transformative storyteller, or the shapeshifter. The shapeshifter, because Sun is still in Gemini and brings us that adaptability. That'll change when the Sun goes into Cancer, and we'll talk about that. But for now, we have the alchemist journey. We have the storyteller. We have the person, the salesman, who has all these emotional stories. And they aren't just stories. They aren't just random things. They're at the primal level, so they really get to your emotions. And the good side of this is we can invoke and encourage others to have positive behavior. But on the service to self side, this is the shady salesman, is sort of the same energetic background, and the intention behind the activity determines if it's good or bad. But we have this overall at the onset of our window is more of a storyteller one way or the other, or a salesman or a shapeshifter. And this energy, particularly the emotional piece to it, bringing this back to our title, Emotional Mayhem, is the type of energy that ironically guilt trips us a lot easier. We're a lot more in tune to the emotion, and so it can easily get manipulated by it. So be on the lookout for that. And by the way, we don't talk a whole lot about behaviors, because that's more of our weekly surf reports. And we're going to put all the main energies together, but we'll also talk about the actual specific suggested behaviors to include. Make sure that you include in your day-to-day operations to maximize success. All right, the Sun is going to enter into Cancer on the 20th of June. And this removes the versatile creator that was in Gemini. And you can see it here. They are the empathic caregiver. We have the Sun and Venus together. That's the cosmic lover, with only 4.5 degrees away. So ego identity vests great importance on just love and togetherness, coziness. And then we have Mercury and Venus still. That's still the sensitive communicator, waning out because it's 3.5 degrees apart. So, but all of them technically are within a conjunction. All three players are together the luminous heart archetype. And we do need to include that in conjunct to Pluto. That gives that alchemy part of this, the ability to emanate powerfully or transition or convince others. But the positive part of our luminous heart archetype, here's your picture, is a very deep and warm presence. You definitely show that you care. The identity derived by the deep passions of Pluto bring people together. So with a conjunct to Venus in Cancer. Considerable emotional security when it's a healthy subject. When this energy is affecting healthy cancers, we have a lot of more self-security or emotional stability. On the negative side, we can easily romanticize or idealize or obsess about relationships because there's this pressure to Neptune that brings in our idealism and Piscean traits. Can become emotionally needy, can come over and start controlling others. We can overcare. That's when we start to tip into controlling. But now, this was all sort of theoretical. We were thinking about and fantasizing about love and love needs and relational needs. But now it switches a little bit into Earth because we have a full moon in Capricorn. And we're going to have a little element of grounded throughout now. And the advantage now is not just emotions. Now it's the ability to bring those emotions out into the real world, to actually do something with them in the physical reality. And that's our full moon. And the full moon is the resolute visionary. It's opposing our luminous hearted one, our archetypical Cancer, caring, nurturing mother. Ironically, it's the mother of the major archetype, the full moon, in opposite of where the luminous hearted one is. But in general, the full moon brings a little bit of unpredictability. So that in and of itself is going to heighten the emotional states. And putting it all together now to include the Capricorn full moon is the soulful architect. So we have a little bit of unpredictability, but we have massive amounts of much more earthy, grounded, practical goals. So we're bringing these emotions out into the physical world. Ability to remain attuned to your emotional and spiritual core. We'll have a strong ability to manifest dreams and turn those into reality, especially with a T-square on Neptune. Neptune gives us the ability, almost forces us to fantasize or idealize about the way things should be, and that feeds right into the Capricorn full moon, channels all that extra emotional energy from Cancer, and you care, into a real manifesting soulful architect. Now is where things start to shift, because one key thing that you're noticing is this square from Cancer over to Pisces and Neptune are severely waning out. So we're going to get the removal of this pressure to idealize or pressure to connect, and the pressure is removed. And now we're going to be left with pretty much the rest of the time this easy energy. This is getting towards the end of June, 26 June, still not near the end of our window, but we have also a key sextile that's beginning, and this is Venus sextile Mars. It has been going on for a few days now, but it's getting a lot stronger now, and without that square over to Neptune, without that pressure there, this actually becomes a dominant energy, and this gives us the small amount of grounded, earthy desire or our output with Mars to be cozy. It's the cozy sensualist, because remember, Taurus is the five senses and wants to experience. And so you always have passion when you bring Venus and Mars together in an opportunistic sextile. You get a desire for cozy. Now, how's that different than before when we just had Sun, Venus, and Mercury in Cancer, that's a lot. That's a lot of caring. That's a lot of nurturing. But it's just more fluttering inside of us. Now that we have the sextile over to Mars, it becomes much more tactile. I want to feel it. I want to be in it. Not I want to be in it. I am in it. I'm in the cozy. I have my lover with me. Strong desires to capitalize on affection, caring, intimacy, but above all, sensual needs. So it turns very, very, very practical, very real. Okay. And we have the intimate caregiver when we when we remove the square to Neptune. And now we have Moon and Saturn about to hit a conjunction. We're going to talk about that because something significant happens when that conjunction comes together. When we put all these together, our new sort of archetype is the intimate caregiver, and the primary alignment there is the Venus sextile Mars in Taurus, and this is what you get. Just heard a knock at the door, so not sure if that was just the wind. By the way, Venus sextile Mars is strongest or exact on June 28th at 11:49 p.m. Central Daylight Time. All right, so we have Saturn station. This is when the moon hits Saturn. Saturn stops moving. Time stands still. Okay. And this is a very strong alignment that comes together at the same time. That's why how amazing this is. I'm going to pause and see what the person at the door wants. All right. So Saturn station and the moon together. So we get the emotional alchemist, sense of gravity to Piscean emotions. It's a big, wise spotlight on all things Pisces. And I'm calling it the feeling of time stand still. This is Father Time, Saturn, and it's all trine. This is a major trine channel. And we're going to see this repeated over time. No pun intended. And we'll see the same trine with these three over to Neptune a little later. This is what keeps this window alive. It's a major amount of water, 6 water signs, and a big powerful alignment right here on 27 June at 9:12 a.m. because the moon whips around here pretty fast. But Saturn station will get kicked off right here when the moon passes over and stay apparent to Earth station for several days. And that will be the start of something else that's pretty cool called synchronized swimming, because Saturn's not the only one that's going to be stationed. Neptune will join in as well. And I call this the synchronized swimming because it's in Pisces. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool window, by the way. And I have much more to go here. It only gets better. So, let's see here. Overall, putting all these alignments together, time stands still. We get the sage. That's Saturn in Pisces, very like a spiritual coach or a soul coach. And we get compassion because of all this water. And I think time is just going to stand still. You know, when you're so into an emotional experience that time just goes away, we call this maybe the flow, or just so into the experience that you forget time is even a thing. This is what that's going to feel like, maybe for several days, but it'll at a minimum on the morning of the 27th of June. Compassion builder, compassionate sage. Then we have another sextile to talk about that is going to be the emotionally intuitive lightning bolt. And this one has to do with Uranus, our favorite lightning generator, Uranus and Mercury. So now we have two. We have at the same time, we have Venus at 15 degrees, Mars at 15 degrees of Taurus. So that sextile is super strong. And then Mercury and Uranus is exact at 29 June at 9:19 p.m. Central Daylight Time. This is the emotional lightning bolt. That sextile, it represents a sudden flash of emotional insight or revelation brought about by the unexpected influence of Uranus in Taurus. There's Taurus again. There's that little thread of earthiness, so that keeps us just a little bit grounded in there. Even though the emotions are dominant, it gives us enough to ground into the real world in a certain way. And this one is the ability to gain new perspectives on emotional situations. It might also be the intuitive inventor, because if Mercury is in Cancer, that brings that intuitiveness into the invention alignment. I consider Uranus and Mercury, anytime they're aligned together, especially the square, but also the sextile, because it represents opportunity. It's your opportunity to be the intuitive inventor, gaining sudden insights or revelations about emotional situations, finding creative solutions to emotional challenges or conflicts. Now that I mentioned before, the Piscean synchronized swimming, here you have it. On the 27th of June, Saturn's going to go station, and that's with the moon passing over Saturn. Not because moon is passing over, it just, that's a magical alignment there. Means it's even more emotional. Emotions and spiritual and connected and transpersonal. But anyway, Saturn goes station on the 27th, and then you can see 3 days later, Neptune begins its station. So for a couple of days from the end of June and beginning of July 2024, you're going to have both Pisces planets in station at the same time. And then Saturn will start going backwards, apparent to us. And then Neptune on the 3rd will be in retrograde. So by the 3rd of July, through the rest of our window out to the 11th, you'll have both planets in Pisces in retrograde. Saturn is the wise old man. Saturn, the ancient teacher, settles into the mystical waters of Pisces. It's a planet of wisdom, responsibility, and life lessons. Takes a pause. It's time for deep introspection. And from that, whatever alignments we get, we're going to look at the charts, you get that wisdom. And then for Neptune, you've got the illusions unraveling. You have the lifting of the veil. I love this. The veil of illusion. So you get two things. You get the wisdom from Saturn, and you get the lifting of the veil, or you get the spiritual ascension process, basically, with Neptune in Pisces station. So Neptune's station encourages us to pierce through the fog of confusion and delusion. And the point is, when you get both of those together, we get a sense of unity of the divine, deepening spiritual connection and compassion, developing emotional maturity and resilience, gaining insight from past experiences, and cultivating inner wisdom and self-awareness. And we're not even close to the big crescendo here. So we're getting closer to the end. We're in July now. This is the 2nd of July. Saturn has already gone full retrograde. You can see how close Neptune was to getting out of Pisces, but didn't quite make it and is still stationed. And it's extremely tight. So the veil lifting is part of and trine to Neptune. And so Neptune station and trine to Mercury is exact on 2 July at 6:53 a.m. This trine makes a lucid dream for all of us. It's a spiritual awakening. And then Saturn has a very tight trine over to Venus. So the wisdom that we just picked up in the time standing still from from Saturn is now afforded to all the relationships. So basically, we need to listen to people talking, really listen to them, because they will be talking with hints about the veil being lifted or spiritual awakening. If you really listen to the deeper parts of their communication, that's Mercury. And then you look at the relationships and feel and be in the relationship, you're going to feel that veil lifting. You're going to feel the wisdom being showered from Saturn. All right, now the final scene. This here is not the final scene. It's being set up. And we have one more big widget to go. It's the Cancer new moon, and it's much more than a new moon. Can't wait to show you that chart. But on the 3rd of July, we have our final scene is being set up, and our new window is being set up here. This is about 9 days before the end of the window. You're actually seeing the start of our next energetic centerpiece for the next window, and that's Mars and Uranus. This is the technical beginning, 8 degrees, technical beginning of their conjunction. The actual conjunction will be the centerpiece for the next window, and it's very earthly, rebellious. But for now, so as this gets tighter, we're going to have this big energetic, emotional crescendo with the new moon. And then once that's done, it's going to quickly fall off. And then this rebellious alignment, as well as some other things, are going to morph into the dominance. Okay, so here's the big crescendo. Check this out. Look at all that. We have all of these planets, because you have the new moon at 14 degrees, 23 minutes of Cancer. But you also have Venus in Cancer. You have Mercury even, all achieving a trine over to our two synchronized swimmers. And so we have the divine mother, the divine nurturer right here. I mean, a baby being born on this day is going to be extremely self-sacrificing. It's going to be hard to know where my identity stops and the other starts. It's going to just be everybody melded together, and will be probably hard to take time for self. Like self-care will be a weak point in this person. But it's very divine in terms of connectedness, spiritual attunement, intuitiveness. And so this is a very special, and not just a new moon in Cancer, but represents only easy energy to other water signs and only sextiles. So representing lots of growth. So this is a very deeply caring energy imprint. And our earthly, rebellious one is very subtle right now, still overshadowed by this tremendous amount of energy. I believe it feels a lot more maturation than mayhem on this, but I'm open to anything. Really depends on what people are feeling here, how they're interpreting the energy. I would expect maybe Cancers and Pisces folks to get both of, it's a double-edged sword, get grander emotions from this energy and feel it a lot more, but also get the benefits of it too, and also get the potential downsides as well, which can be when we self-sacrifice too much, which is what this alignment might encourage us to do, to sacrifice self and self needs a lot more than otherwise. That builds resentment if it's too much. So trying to be in balance with self and others is very difficult in that. But remember, it's a new moon. And so in a new moon, we want to create our lunar goals for the month, because this Cancer energy window is really going to go away soon, but we need to complete our cycle, even though the energies are different. And those are the Cancer goals. So things that we could look at are cultivating emotional well-being, prioritizing emotional health by practicing self-care. That goes directly against the biggest risk, I think, was with this energy profile, is practicing self-care. That might be a really good one, especially for the water signs to practice at this new moon. Maybe work on strengthening relationships, go get some marriage counseling, ignite a fire there to nurture the relationships, expressing empathy and increasing intimacy. How about Cancer as the home and the sanctuary? And so creating a warm, inviting, comfortable living space, that denotes a lot of different options. Maybe doing a little addition or tidying up the bedroom or shifting things around to make it more cozy. There's also creativity. You can set goals to explore your creative talents. And now we can bring in Venus because she's the performer as well, and artistic. So painting and writing and music, any form of artistic expression would be a good goal. Financial stability. Cancers are wanting that security and stability. So setting goals around some sort of finances that may reduce risk might be good. These are just examples. And then nurturing others might be a good option. But that's the crescendo, and there's a lot of emotion there. And then this is the end. This is the end of the window, 11 July. Oh, by the way, that new moon is the day after Independence Day, 5 July at 5:57 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And then a few days later, about a week later, this is the end. And it ends at the time of 11 July, 11:18 a.m. with Venus leaving Cancer. That and not only just leaving Cancer, but immediately getting an opposition to Pluto. So there's a lot of power, and we'll look at that archetype, but it is nothing like what we just talked about before. So that energy piece shifts, and it is a lot more commensurate with Mars and Uranus together in Taurus, which is only 3.5 degrees away. And look, we have a lot of Earth, but it's not a grand Earth trine, but it's a grand trine that has a lot of Earth in it and Pluto. So there's a lot more power plays here, and still emotions, but not nearly as many water signs. There's only 3 water signs. Earth has 3. It's a little mixed, but this is technically the end of our emotional window. Let's do a review. This is our extensive review. I'll probably paste this sometime on Telegram, and you guys can read that as a summary. But how about a condensed big picture of this energy? This is energy window 10. At the sudden start of the energy window, the pressure to dream feels like forced love or too ideal to be real. That's the square over to Neptune. But it gives us a starting point to create a desire for connectedness. It forces us to fantasize and write the script of love. So love letters for a lot of us, and that's the Mercury part of it. And then a touch of Earth then presents a way to start manifesting love and connectedness into the real world. First, we have the full moon in Capricorn, and then we have the 2 sextiles between Mars and Uranus in Taurus that have this nice thread of groundedness all the way through. It's not dominant, but it gives us an outlet to the real world to channel these big emotions. Then the Piscean unveiling of spiritual wisdom, channeled directly to the Cancer new moon, will promise to strengthen humanity's unstoppable force through improved love and its capacity to care for one another like never before. People become lucid to the dream that we call life, and together we defeat the darkness that attempts to separate us. Where we go one, we go all. All right, everybody, you all enjoy this window. I look forward to seeing how all this manifests out. But is it going to be mayhem or maturation? I think there's a lot of both, as we just talked about. I think mayhem is more of the beginning, getting used to all this emotional energy and spiritual energy, and then getting rid of the Neptune square. Seeing the two synchronized swimmers in Pisces is going to be really interesting at the change from June to July, right around that ending of June, and seeing the spiritual awakening happen. And all the while, we are all feeling more connected. And it's going to be through the emotions and through caring and nurturing. So wonderful time to be alive and a great energy window to experience together. All right, everybody, stay tuned. We'll see you in the next video.